So I have been blessed to teach high school for the last 2 decades, and I primarily work with 10th graders and 12th graders. So as you can imagine, I have been really excited to see a lot of my students move on to college and careers, and I'm very lucky, and they have been really the inspiration for this book that I wrote, as you already mentioned, Beyond the Bell. So, I've always been a writer. I teach English, of course, so it's always been an absolute passion and love of mine. And I always, since I'm a young girl, always felt like I wanted to share a book with the world. I felt like I had a book inside me. And when I did my master's in creative writing, I always felt like I should be writing fiction, because that's typically, as an English teacher, I study a lot of fiction with my students, and I thought that was going to be my path. And one night I have 3 boys. One night I was putting my middle son to sleep, and I just started typing with my thumbs on my phone a story that I have been telling my students for the last 2 decades about my own path and how I came to be an English teacher and stand in front of them. And I just realized in that moment that, gosh, I share so much with my students. The writing came so naturally to me. And I thought, what if this is the book? What if this is what's inside me? And to be honest with you, I just committed to writing every single night. I wrote the book from 10 o'clock at night to 12 o'clock in the morning, and then worked all day, got up at 5, worked all day. But I was so inspired by my students and so inspired by the conversations I had with them every day, and watching them do amazing things, that I thought, you know what? This is what I want to share. This is the kind of stuff I want to put out into the world. And they are my inspiration. The book is dedicated to my students, and it was in 2019 that I started to really cultivate all of these things into what now is on pre-sale, which is this book. Yeah, so the lessons are based on moving from high school and moving through that scary time when we leave the comfort of our hometown and our high schools, and we have to figure out what's next. So the book kind of starts looking at that phase of life, and then goes into, what do we do? How do we pick majors in college if that's the path that we choose? What if we're starting a business? How do we face some of those fears that we have of the unknown? And then the book takes us into your first time interviewing for a job, and how just really insecure those moments can be, how we've all faced them. And then the book goes into relationships, finding love, getting your heart broken, and then kind of spins into this "and they lived happily ever after" myth that we all fall, I think, victim to as we grow up. And it discusses how we should live here in the present, and we can always look towards our goals. And the last chapter is that graduate with grace, which takes us to the end of, the book. Well, it's funny. Like I said, I am very lucky that I teach English. So with a lot of the books that I teach, I think that I am able to have some real discussions with students about the world around them and about human condition, and how really we are all trying to navigate this life together. And because I think I teach English, I do feel like what my subject matter offers does help kids prepare for the world beyond high school. I always tell my students, you are in the real world. What you are doing today matters. And I do feel like there's a lot of discussion about when you leave high school, you're entering the real world. And I don't know that I believe that. So I think that, I think high school does prepare kids. And I think that every kid is going to bring to the table what they're willing to bring when they're ready. It's interesting. I think that in some ways, life planning is in the curriculum in different ways. Right now, for example, in the high school that I teach at, I have kids doing a senior experience or an internship program, which a lot of high schools do. And I think any experiences like that, guest speakers, can really give kids what they need down the line to figure out what's it going to be long-term for them, what maybe are their goals going to be. Life planning is a funny thing because, the expression goes, we make plans and then, we have to pivot. We have to figure things out as we go. So I think high school does a good job of throwing different challenges at kids and asking them to rise to the challenge. And I think kids that are involved in extracurricular activities, sports, how to work with people, I think we're planning for life, the second we enter kindergarten, really, and we start learning how to navigate the world around us. Well, I tell you what, chapter 1 of my book is titled Welcome Fear, which is one of the most important chapters, I believe, in the book, because I believe on the other side of fear is often progress. And I think if we feel fear, it's because we care so deeply about the challenge that's in front of us, that we care so deeply about what we do next, that we're willing to take chances, stand on fragile ground, and face it. So I get the fear, and I think it's natural. The thing I most tell my students is that you are not alone. We've all been here before. And I tell them, if you look around and see a successful adult or even a successful peer, most of the time that success came as a result of facing a challenge, facing a fear head on, and going anyway. That's a hard one. I think as a parent myself and just being around parents of teenagers my whole career, I think the hardest thing that parents face is letting go. We struggle as parents and even as teachers, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I have to rein myself in from saying, don't you want to do this instead? Because we care so deeply about our teens and about our children that we want to help them make great decisions. So it's really hard advice. The last chapter of my book is actually it's the end of my book is there's a note to parents. The theme of that chapter is letting go and trusting the job that you've done as a parent, that you've given them the tools, that you've done your best, you've supported them along the way. And unfortunately, we can't go to college, we can't enlist with them, we can't start the career with them. We can only support them and cheer them on like we always have. So I would say to parents, love unconditionally, support them in their dreams, and could continue to remind yourself that this is the life for them to lead, and it's so thrilling to watch them navigate it, and it really is rewarding if you can get through it with your mouth closed and cheering them on. It's tough. Yeah, I absolutely do. I think there is value in routine. I think there's value in figuring out in high school, what are your priorities? How do you manage your time? How do you communicate with people in high school, whether it be your teachers, your peers, or like I said, on a field, working with teammates or coaches? I think there's a lot of opportunity to figure out along the way how to navigate the world around you. And I think high school does offer a lot to students, especially today where we are integrating technology, and we really are, most high schools are cradling different forms of teaching and classroom activities. So I think more than ever, and there is something to say for what we just went through with the pandemic, teachers and classrooms have learned how to pivot and take life as it comes and answer when there's challenges in front of us. Well, again, they're not alone. And I experienced that myself as a college student. And I think it's important for students to vocalize that worry and vocalize what their concerns are so that they are not facing that alone. There's no reason to face it alone. There's so many resources available. I found it extremely helpful to use the resources in college, like a career center, which most colleges and most high schools now have, where you could speak to guidance counselors and professionals that you want to sit down with. And it doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to answer all the questions that you have about your future, but just sometimes those candid conversations about the worry and about the fear can help alleviate that, so that you can think clearly and really come at the big decisions feeling a little bit more at ease. I don't think there's any reason why a student should have to go through that alone. And I hope that by reading my book, I really hope that kids come away from my book feeling like, okay, I am feeling what most people feel in this stage of life, and I'm going to be okay. It's just going to be an interesting ride as I go. And in my book, I talk about that, and I give a lot of examples of my own students figuring it out. So again, they don't have to do it alone, and I communicating with people they trust and people they love and people that they know will be supportive is definitely the way to go. And another important thing I think for kids to remember and parents to remember is one of the chapters is titled Throw Spaghetti. And what that chapter is all about is trying everything, giving it a shot, exposing yourself to as many experiences as possible, and trying to make some kind of progress every single day. Some things are going to stick and other things are going to fall, but you can't figure life out. You can't figure out what makes you happy if you're not willing to throw that spaghetti and see what is meant for you, so that you can really live the rich life that is available to all of us, as long as we open our eyes and we're open to it. So my book, I'm so excited to say, is published by G&D Media, the most amazing publishers on the planet. And it is on Amazon, of course. It's on sale at Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, and you just Google Beyond the Bell and you'll find it everywhere. And it's 12 lessons for navigating your life after high school. So it's everywhere books are sold, and I can't wait till it launches in September. It's on pre-sale now, and it's also on Kindle, and I believe the audiobook will also be available soon.